So hey guys, welcome to La Bóveda podcast, where we plunge into the dark and twisted corners of survival horror. Today we take on House of Necrosis, a turn-based, it's an RPG element, basically. Survival horror with 32-bit graphics. I think it's, I don't know, I saw it and it instantaneously grabbed my attention. The horror setting includes like shifting mansions, procedural dungeons and classic, what those inspirations basically collide. And joining us today is the developer, Warkus, the studio behind this atmospheric journey. We're going to dig into the creative decisions, that influence this like 90s horror visual aesthetic and the character and the world building behind House of Necrosis. So welcome to La Bóveda, Warkus.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, man. I saw that and I'm like, yeah, I need to get Warkus on the show. I had the chance to play it and it's entertaining and it's it captivated me pretty quick. And it's an interesting mix of that RPG element with the isometric look and the whole thing, but it switches too. It's not all the time the same, and we're gonna be talking about that later. So to start, how did Warkus come together? What led you to develop House of Necrosis?
So, like, I could begin with my childhood, which is probably like a bit too far in the past.
Let's let's
but with House of Necrosis, I played or I replayed the very first Resident Evil, and back to that, I played a mystery dungeon game, the very first one. Torneco's Great Adventure for the Super Nintendo.
Oh yeah, awesome game.
And I started to notice some similarities between like mystery dungeon gameplay and survival horror.
Yeah.
So like the inventory management,
Yes.
the how tense the actions are, and like you're always scared going through a corridor because there could be a monster right around the corner. And when it comes to mystery dungeon games, there's not a lot of like entries with mature themes. I mean, there's some that are mystery dungeon adjacent, like Baroque, but there's not a lot. And I thought I really would wish there was a game because I would love to play it. And then I was searching and looking around, and there was none. And then I thought, maybe I should make one.
And it sure worked out because it's great. I was gonna ask you, you've been developing games for a while, right?
Yeah. So I started like making just tiny experiments at around 2010 or something like that. And then it was more on and off thing. Like I was interested in game development, did a couple of like small, really bad games, and then I lost interest again. And when it like finally really hit me and I really got super into it, that was like 2020 when everyone was at home and had a lot of time. Like,
Yeah. we all went through that. Yep. That's how I started streaming too. So I can, yeah, that was an interesting time. I think a lot of our creativity as human beings came out during that time.
Yeah.
So, Warkus, the Steam page describes it as an inspired by early 3D survival horror games of the 90s. And you mentioned Resident Evil. Do you have any other inspirations and how those inspirations manifest in your game?
Yeah, it's probably like all of them. It's definitely started with Resident Evil, but my favorite, and I mean, I'm not really sure if you would call it like a survival horror game, but my favorite is Parasite Eve.
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
So good. I think we were talking about it the other day, and I'm working on a project, and I include it in the project, even though if it's not a survival horror game, because I think Parasite Eve is one of those games that blends perfectly the RPG genre with the survival horror genre. And even if it's not like a survival horror game at core, definitely if you're a survival horror game fan, you're a fan of that game.
Yeah, right.
So it makes sense to include it because if you kind of think about it, Parasite Eve, one way or another, influenced the survival horror genre moving forward.
Yeah, true.
So, it's part of the history. It's there. So I definitely felt. Now that you mention it, you eliminate one of my questions because it was like I felt some of the stuff, especially on the parts where the isometric perspective changes, and maybe how the controller and all the options that it's just, guys, like, I'm gonna put the link below like I always do. Be sure to check it out. Like, if you're a fan of RPG games and survival horror, that most of the survival horror people like RPGs based on my experience. So check it out. It's awesome. And I'm gonna also put a little bit of images here so you guys get the feel, because a lot of the audience is asking me like, Joe, I like what you're doing now that you're putting like a little bit of the gameplay during the interview, so that adds to it. Because
Mhm.
I was talking yesterday with another developer, and we both agree, like, some people are like, it's not like you guys are lazy, but it's like, if it's there, it's better. You don't have to click and get out, and
Yeah.
So how did the concept of a mansion that changes every time you enter emerge? What's and what challenges did that pose to the design?
I think like the most obvious thing for me personally was like I had to think about something that I could make on my own.
Yeah.
And like if you look at Parasite Eve, for example, which was also an inspiration, like I mentioned, there's so many like different settings and set pieces and stuff like that. And yeah, I think like making just a mansion is relatively easy, or easier for a single person to make.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. So you were trying to make something based on, but it has its own touch, something fresh.
Yeah.
So that blend of turn-based RPG mechanics and horror, like you said, is unusual. Parasite Eve is the perfect example. How do you balance that strategic, tactical gameplay with the tension and to create that dread feeling?
Yeah, the funny thing is I really didn't like, it's all immersive. Like it just happens.
It comes natural to it.
Yeah, it comes natural,
That's so good. You know what? It's now that you think about it, it's I think one of the survival horror has like around 5 or 6 hallmarks, and I'm not gonna go specifically into them, but the environment, the soundtrack, the environment, and all of these stuff, they come together in unison just to create that perfect environment. And I think we have been so saturated from it in the history of gaming that nowadays, like, when you're like creating stuff, I do some creative stuff on my own too. It just comes naturally when you blend stuff, and
Yeah.
it's so good because that way, there's a lot of developers out there making great games, especially indie developers. And I've noticed like a surge on solo devs too. They're just
Mhm.
working on their projects and whatnot, and sometimes they don't even realize when we're talking like off record, like off camera. They're like, "Oh, I'm doing this, and that," and then I mention something, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't even notice that." And they're
Yeah.
working, on it, and that's it. For me, that's great because you can see how all these new wave of survival horror that maybe started like around 2017, 2018. Um, it's just piled with all this influence from the games that make the genre great, but they're still fresh stories, and there's a lot of them
Yeah.
with different takes. And I was talking with another guy too. He mentioned that there's this thing about calling games, oh, this is a Resident Evil clone, or this is a Alan Wake clone, or a Silent Hill clone. And the specific guy that I was talking with, he was like, well, people are calling this an Alan Wake clone, but all of a sudden, if it's a Resident Evil clone, it's good. But if it's a clone to any other game, it doesn't work the same way. And I'm like,
Mhm.
the term clone, I don't like it personally. I've said it a million times because it's not like you're making a one-to-one thing. being
Yeah.
cloning something and doing something inspired is totally different.
Yeah. True.
And I can see all that. I don't know if it's the tism or what it is, but it's just like I can sense all this stuff, and for me, it's like I enjoy a lot tearing them apart. I want to get into the developer's head or the person writing the lore and understand what was the intention writing stuff. And to my surprise, I encountered what you just said. There's a lot of you guys that create amazing things like House of Necrosis, and you're doing it. It just happens when you're creating it. Like there's no like a huge explanation behind it. That's for me. That's poetic, bro.
All right.
So what design decisions were critical in making the procedural dungeons feel coherent and spooky rather than random?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, if I'm really being honest, I was like, especially at first, I was like leaning very hard into like established rules that mystery dungeon games have. And even over the course of the development, that hasn't changed that much. Like, in a sense, I never really tried to make a spooky game.
Okay.
I just understood, like, if you combine these elements, something will emerge that is like more than the sum of its parts. Like, if you go and watch some people playing like a standard mystery dungeon game like Shiren the Wanderer, and they're like 2 hours in their run and standing in a monster house on
Yeah.
their last health point and see the fear in their faces, that's like horror.
Oh yeah.
So you just gotta like amp up the atmosphere maybe a bit, that it's like tense from the get-go, but
yeah.
other than that, it's already like these games already create fear in people.
The dopamine, bro. You need that.
Yeah. Without even trying, yeah.
Yes, it's one of those things. It's like sometimes I'm playing live and people start laughing because I say, "Why do I get myself in these situations?" It's like I'm scared or a jump scare just take my heart out of place.
I also feel like when I played Resident Evil again with the limited save systems, there's like this feeling of loss when you die, because you can't just like reload like 1 minute after you died. It could be hours maybe if you didn't save, and that's, I think that's a mystery dungeon too. Like you are in a run 3 hours, maybe even 4 hours, who knows, whatever dungeon you're tackling. And yeah,
I'm not a fan of autosave nowadays. Like autosave in survival horror games should be prohibited. It's just it takes away a little bit from the experience that we had to experience in the first games, yeah,
it's also like it even frustration is an emotion, and I feel like when games can make you feel an actual emotion, that's a really good thing to do.
It is. It creates that experience. It's part of the experience. So I think we mentioned, like, when you appreciate world building for House of Necrosis and the lore in game, where the environment is shifting constantly, how do you ensure that even with that happening, you have narrative consistency?
So it's like what's random is just the gameplay part, and everything story related is like fixed.
Okay. Yep.
So not sure how far you played, but in the main story dungeon, there's like 4 floors, and at the end is a boss. And if you beat the boss, then you get to like this pre-rendered background area, and that's usually where some story beats happen. And then you go back into the dungeon, and then it's procedural generated again.
It's procedural, yeah. It's I like that a lot, and I want to say that it's very unique in a way, because you have that area pre-render background that you mentioned. It feels like a grounding area. It's I played recently. I think one of the greatest games that came out this year was Heartworm, and they have this
Mhm.
the safe room. And I was talking
Yeah.
about it yesterday too. The safe room. He managed to identify where the safe room was with the books on the outside, but then you enter and he had a very distinctive music track, right? And Vincent mentioned that he worked on it and he wanted to make sure that it was like, epic, and it was epic because I remember that I switched from Heartworm. What was the game that I played before? After that, I started playing the hotel, and I remember when I started the hotel, I was playing the hotel and I was thinking about the music from the other game. When you achieve something like that, it's for me it's great. And I think that area that you're talking about, it's that because since all the narrative stuff happens there, it's great.
That's
Can,
also kind of funny because, like, in terms of music,
yeah,
in my game, it's like the exact opposite. In
yeah.
the safe areas between the floors, there's no music.
There's nothing. It's just calm.
Yeah, yeah, it's just silence. Yeah,
But you know what? There's a beauty in silence in horror design, and we have a podcast
yeah, I
called
think
La
so too.
Autopsia in Spanish, where we analyze video games. And I have one of my best friends who happens to be a psychologist, and he helps me analyze video games. And we were analyzing Silent Hill, and Silent Hill plays a major role on silence in horror games. And they achieve, that dread through silence. And
Yeah.
there's this part on the remake when you're going for the first time into the apartment complex. There's a storm outside, right? And as soon as you enter the building, it's like dead silent.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me that, and that's so good because it's like either you don't know the first time that you enter is like is something gonna happen here or is this safe?
Exact. Yeah, you can tell, yeah.
Yeah,
Because normally in safe rooms, there's like this more upbeat or more happy music playing, and okay, that's like a safe area.
yeah.
And in my game, it's just like silence, and you're always wondering, like, is there something bad gonna happen, or what's next?
So for the audience, can you tell us about the protagonist, their motivations, personality, and how do they evolve?
So yeah, I really started with the template of like the archetype Resident Evil 1 protagonist, like police member or I don't know, some special force unit type of person. Um, but what you probably also will realize while playing this game, um, it's like it's hard to like really tell in one sentence, but it's more of a thing like if you're in a crisis,
Yes,
everything that happened before the crisis is like obsolete, if that makes sense.
yes,
So whatever you were before or what happened before in your life is like that's another part of you, and now you've become something else. And that's also a major theme that happens throughout the game, that you're slowly becoming something else.
yes. It's part of the character development. It's
Yeah.
it's good. So, I think what role does the resource management, and the inventory, and or even permadeath mechanics play in heighten the tension? Do you rely on those?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, a permadeath itself is like you can't create more tension than
Yes.
that. That's like the maximum that you can get. Uh, and for the inventory management, it's possible to upgrade your inventory slots so you can get
Yeah.
quite a lot at the end of the game. And it's also like a cool like character progression kind of thing. Um, but yeah, it's like it just it plays really well with the like scarcity of resources, and like that's the whole gameplay side of things, that enemies will try to reduce your resources and you try to like stick to them and you can, but you're because your inventory is limited and you have to decide. And yeah, like everything creates tension in that sense.
Yeah. As for the visual aim at that retro 32-bit feel, right? What art direction and maybe technical constraints guided your choices?
I mean, I tried pretty much to adhere to the technical limitations of the PlayStation 1,
Yeah.
but not like to a like hard degree. And that's mainly because I really love this style. And if you look at my other games, you can probably tell
Yeah.
that
Yep.
that's what I like.
It's funny because that's the next question. It's I didn't notice that and I wrote it down. There's a surge of the new generation of players actually embracing that PS1, PS2 feel. And I think it's great because there's something. I don't know if you would agree with me on this, but there's something about the PlayStation 1 greediness and all that grainy feeling, the graphics and everything that make survival horror or horror games more scary than just being completely explicit. Like it, when what I think the best example I can give you is Resident Evil 2 remake is perfect. It's great, right? But I would choose the OG 100 times.
Yeah,
There's something about the aesthetic of the PS1. I don't know if it's nostalgia for us that we had the chance to play when it came out. But there's something special, and I think that's translated to the new generation because my son is 13 years old and he's playing games like this, and he says, "Oh, these
Mhm.
games play way better than the new ones," and I'm like, "Well, maybe it's not me being old, maybe it's that it's true."
I mean, there's definitely some argument on the gameplay side.
Yeah,
For the visuals, I think because they're so reduced and so simplistic, a lot of stuff is happening in your head, like imagination, and nothing is scarier than your own imagination, I would
yeah.
say.
So, what approach do you take with the audio? Because you mentioned that you didn't use anything, and I noticed that in that safe area. Um, but the audio on the soundtrack, do you use sound to evoke horror and create the atmosphere, especially on the procedural content?
I mean, yeah, sure. I think everyone who like knows about music theory and stuff will notice it's like basic
Yep.
horror music stuff. Like
The
it's
soundtrack's
just
the soundtrack's just
yeah,
like boop. Yep.
yeah.
Yep. So I think the game is getting a very, very positive feedback from what I saw. I usually play the game, make my own opinion of the game, and then I go and because this is what I do. I just want to see what people are thinking out there, and sometimes I encounter that based on my opinion, I differ a lot from what's being said about a certain game out there because the dark corners of the internet can get crazy sometimes. But for this one, it's mostly positive, and that's great. How do you feel about the contribution that the game is making for the horror community?
Whew. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know. I'm not even sure if that's really something I've ever thought about.
yeah, it takes you by
I
surprise, huh?
mean, I mean, I hope that my game can be some kind of like a gateway into like other mystery dungeon games. So if you've played only like survival horror games, Resident Evil, whatever before, and you're playing this game and you think, whoa, the gameplay is really fun. I really enjoy this. And you notice that it's like a whole series with 30 entries and many more like adjacent games.
Yeah.
I think, okay, maybe I want to explore this a bit more. So
Procedural horror and roguelike too. The structure it has that risk for repetition, right? How do you keep the terror fresh across playthroughs?
That's also mainly a thing I don't really think about because even if you look at especially older survival horror games, they have like a handful of enemy types,
Yep.
and repetition is like a thing.
Yes,
But
it is.
if you nail the atmosphere and if you make the gameplay fun enough that you can enjoy a game over more than 1 hour, I'm not really sure if you have to like introduce so many get overwhelming as well.
Yeah. So it's yeah, I get it. It's special. Not, it's for that you mentioned opens a can of worms in my head because nowadays the discussion of the amount of action in a survival horror game, especially classic games, has been the theme of discussion as of late. Like all the conversations and arguments of people on the internet are based on this game is not a true survival horror game, has too much action and whatnot. And even if you introduce like a bunch of monsters, if you kind of think the amount of bullets that you use in Silent Hill 1 from start to finish is crazy. There's a lot of
Yeah.
bullets, but then the environment and the pace of the game was built in a way that you don't feel them. You don't feel like you're using a lot. That's the main difference. So I think that super likely. I think it's the survival horror more than I believe that yes, it has its hallmarks and stuff that needs to be there in order to be classified as a survival horror game. But at the same time, I believe that survival horror has evolved slowly, and now it's like branching, and you have like action horror within the survival horror, psychological survival horror games. It's very wide. There's people that are more leaning towards the classic side. They're more conservative about it, and I can respect that a lot because I was like that for a while. But now I'm more open to games that are not even considered survival horror nowadays. That in my mind, I don't know why I keep them as survival horror. Like Alan Wake. Alan Wake is just an action thriller with horror tropes, but it feels like it derivates from that route.
Hmm.
Definitely, the storytelling, even the gameplay sometimes. So it's very interesting. I haven't made this question in a while, but since I played games that you did before this one, I'm gonna ask: is there any happy mistakes or maybe something that emerged during a system during development that surprised you being more effective than you planned?
Yeah, I mean, my whole game is exactly like that because there's so many items, there's so many spells, there's so many combinations with all the enemies and their abilities. I can't plan for everything, and I had a pretty extensive playtest phase, and I was like constantly surprised what they did figure out and what they came up with when it comes to builds, when it comes to like strategies to avoid certain enemy abilities and stuff like that. But it's also, I think, like that's just also a thing that the genre brings with.
Yes. So, given House of Necrosis is your vision of horror mixed with RPG, that fusion, how do you foresee expanding this universe? Any sequels, spin-offs, deeper lore maybe in the future? Or is it too early
So,
for
so I mean, lore-wise, it's definitely a thing that I try to like make one big world for all my games. It's probably something people will notice when they play through everything I've created. Um, and it's also like a subtle thing. You really have to dig deep and make strange connections
yeah.
to notice that. But that's like my big plan. So instead of like creating a new world or do a bunch of world building for every game, I really like the idea that like there's a subtle connection between every game, and if you played every game, you can like connect all the dots and see the whole picture. That would be cool if I could achieve that.
Oh yeah, that sounds awesome. That's how you create universes, right?
Yeah.
What's your biggest challenge or maybe regret in the project, and what would you do differently in hindsight?
Not start, probably.
You're
I
like
mean,
the
I was, the game started as a like 7-day game jam thing, and I really liked what I did. It was not that popular, and it was probably the least popular of all the games I've released so far. But I did really like working on it, and I really liked also playing the game for myself. Um, yeah, so I just continued, and I thought like, okay, let's make this into my first commercial project. And I thought it would probably take, I don't know, 6 months, a year, something like that. Yeah, and 4 years later,
for
here I am.
here I am. Yeah, it's funny enough that you mentioned that you didn't have that feeling because it was maybe the less popular of the games that you work with. This man, this is like super huge, but this Bobeda podcast and starting talking about with the people behind the games that I play, it started as something that I was doing one time, and I never like I swear that I never intended for this to become like a main thing. Um, but then I started, and I was just doing it because the community enjoyed it. Like the guys that are subscribed to the channel and our talks on Discord is like, oh yeah, Joe, it would be cool. Like you can really talk, and since you know about the genre, you can create interesting conversations with industry
Yeah.
professionals. So maybe you should do this. And I'm like, well, I've never thought about it. I've been in comedy podcasts in Spanish from with my friend Manolo, who is super famous in Puerto Rico, and I've been doing weird stuff. Like I create even like monologues from me. I edit them to be funny, but at the same time they have information. I do serious ones. I do trailer reviews, introduce games to people, but I've never thought that I would be like interviewing people. And then I start doing
Hmm.
it, and the feedback was great. And then other developers start reaching out, and all of a sudden, here I am. I'm about to launch a project that it's completely based off of this, and I couldn't be more grateful from the community and guys like you that actually give me the opportunity to come in here and sit down and talk about this stuff, because this is what I love. So for me, it's like everything else is free, like they say. This is one of those cases. Like I really enjoy this, and I am so happy that people are actually enjoying what we're doing.
Yeah, like I can relate because I would have also never thought that anyone would be interested in interviewing me.
Yeah,
At
it's
that
it's
point.
bro. The game is very good. I've had the opportunity, and this is something that I say with my heart in my hands. Like most of, if not every single interview that I've done, I've been able to interview people that I really like their games, and I haven't fall into that weird I don't want to find myself into that weird predicament where I'm trying to interview somebody that either I haven't played the game, or I know nothing about the game, or nothing caught my eye
Hmm.
just for doing it. I don't think I could do that.
Yeah.
What if there's any secret or Easter egg that players should be maybe looking out when they're playing the game, or maybe something only the most dedicated will discover without spoiling it?
So the major thing, and we have it a lot, like in my Discord, is if you see the first ending, there's a reason why the scary face shows up in the credits,
Okay,
and there's probably more to the game. Like the first ending is not the end of the game.
there you have it, guys. So we're reaching that final stretch here. We're made ourselves to La Bóveda quick fire questions that nobody answers quick. So, first person or third person, which do you prefer when designing horror games, and why?
First person.
First person? Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Uh, there's not enough first person games.
You're the first person to actually say first person. That's good. I like variety. I'm a third person tank controls guy. What's your view on the current trend of action heavy survival horror games?
Um, I hate modern survival horror games.
I think there's a huge part of the community that it's with you on that one. Do you like Dead Space?
Yeah, the first one, yeah.
The first one, yeah. Second one was kind of and then the third one doesn't exist.
Yeah. True.
It's like Resident Evil 6. Resident Evil 6 in my book is weird because I love the story. I think the story from 6 was necessary and it's so good, but the gameplay was what am I playing? It was weird. But then at the same time I enjoyed it a lot cuz I was playing with my cousins and with my friends on the co-op play. So it's just I don't know. I can't decide on that one. Never. Every time I'm talking about it, it's like it's a love and hate relationship.
Yeah.
And which survival horror or maybe a horror RPG game is your favorite of all time, and what makes it special for you?
Definitely Parasite Eve, and I think it's just really interesting to see like SquareSoft in that era
Oh yeah,
trying to make a horror game.
so good, bro. And then Parasite Eve 2 is
Yeah, that's how it happens. Like,
yeah, that's
we don't need to talk about it.
yeah. We can stay out of that one. It's like talking about Dino Crisis and then mentioning Dino Crisis 2.
Yeah, it's like always the two.
You know that Dino Crisis 2 has a very, very big fan base.
I mean, there's a fan base for everything.
Yeah,
so,
I didn't know about
imagine.
that. Because I remember as a kid, when it came out, I rented it first at a Blockbuster and went home and I put it in when I saw the timers and everything. And it was like, what the hell? Is this Fighting Force with guns?
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know, it just stopped. For me, stopped right there. But then after I grew up, like years passed, I went back and played it and finished it because I felt the need to do it. And I didn't change my mind. I think it is not a survival horror game, and it's not. It feels like an arcade. Parasite Eve 2, well, shit happens like how they say. And there's other games like that too. Like it's always the two, except for Silent Hill and Resident Evil.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Those two are like, for me, Resident Evil 2 is the best game of the franchise. There's people that says that Nemesis. I can understand why. But 2 is like peak, and Silent Hill 2, in my opinion, has never been topped. That game is, story wise and everything that it introduced. That game is just a huge chunk of history. It's like right there. So Marcus,
huge influence too.
Oh yeah, it's storytelling. It remains a beat in my opinion. It's like there's not another game out there. And then the remake came out. I loved it because I felt like they really pay homage to the first one, to the OG one. It was so good.
Yeah.
So hey man, I want to thank you for your time, and I really enjoy it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I really enjoy your conversation, man. So if there's anything you want to say for the audience, the microphone's yours.
Buy House of Necrosis.
Buy it, guys. Buy it. I'm gonna yeah.
Or wishlist. Wishlist is also okay.
Yeah, wishlist it. Just try it. And at some point later on, I'm gonna be playing House of Necrosis in the channel. So be sure to stay tuned to what we're doing, and just support your indie devs, especially solo devs that are like working their asses off on this stuff. These people are crazy. They are like masochist. So just go in there and support, follow Warcus. The handle is there, and then the link to Steam for House of Necrosis is gonna be down below. So guys, thanks for watching, and Warcus, man, thanks for your time. I hope this is not the last time that we speak.
Hopefully, yeah.
Until the next time.